This is Vamata Kane with Warframe Breakdown, where we break down Warframe so you can be broken in Warframe. Today we're going to be going over the Cambion Drift and the Necrolisk. These places are available in our new Derelict. The Derelict from the star chart has moved. It was up over here in the top right corner, and now it has moved over here, and it is now called Deimos. In order to access this, you'll have to make a path through Mars to Deimos, through Kadesh, after you've completed war. If we go to it, we'll notice that all of the Derelict nodes are here. When we do access these do not require Derelict keys. With this update, all the keys that you did have in your inventory were automatically refunded, all the resources that you spent on them, so you don't have to worry about having lost out on your ferrite and nanospores in order to come to this place. Your assassination targets are here on Mangdomion. It's the Phantas assassination target, and then the other one is the Zealoid Prelate, right over here, which is kind of ironic that they threw this assassination target here when inside of the battle it says, "We're from Eris." So, I suppose it makes sense because it's in a different location, but the fact that it's available this early on in the game is rather an interesting choice in my opinion. So here we got the Cambion Drift and we got the Necrolisk. If you've already visited the Cambion Drift via the quest, the Necrolisk will automatically be available through that method. So, but the interesting thing, what I've liked about this update versus the other ones, is if I select the Cambion Drift, I don't end up where I normally would think I'd end up. And if I select the Necrolisk, I don't end up where I normally would think I would end up if I was to activate one or the other. So like with Fortuna, it's the elevator. If I activate this, I'll be in the elevator. With Plains of Eidolon, I'll be at the double doors. With this update, Cambion Drift is in the Cambion Drift, and the Necrolisk is in the Necrolisk. And I'll show you a little bit more of what I'm talking about. So we'll go ahead and we'll select that. And we'll just get rolling right on in here. There's a lot of cool things that they've done with this update. One of the things that you'll notice about the Cambion Drift is it is smaller in size, overall map size, comparative to that of the Plains of Eidolon and Fortuna. Fortuna and Plains of Eidolon are really, really, really massive as a map compared to the Cambion Drift. The Cambion Drift is approximately only 800 to 1,000 meters across, but Plains of Eidolon is anywhere from 5,000 meters across. So it's almost 1/5 the size of Plains of Eidolon or Fortuna, which I think is both a good thing and a bad thing. I think since it's an asteroid, it's a good thing. The bad thing is, well, I shouldn't even say it's a bad thing. Honestly, if you're a brand new player, it's really a good thing because that makes it for you to be able to traverse from bounty to bounty without actually having to put a whole lot of effort in. It's not going to require you to use your K drive. It's not going to really require you to use your Arcwing. In fact, half the time, I'm not even using those to traverse this terrain. So it's really, really nice. So when you're in the Cambion Drift, you start the quest, you'll immediately fly into here. This is where you'll end up. And if you go back and you just go ahead and select Cambion Drift, you'll end up in that same location as well. Now, if we pull up the map looks really, really, really small, but we're actually considered inside of a cave, even though we can see where exactly we came out from over there. So we'll go ahead and go this way, and then we will just bada bing, bada boom. And so there's the entire map. It populates right there, and you can see the glory that is the Cambion Drift. So let's go ahead. We'll pull up the big map. As you can see, you got points of interest. You got Catabolic Gutter, Albrecht's Prospects, Cerebrum Magnum, and just all sorts of things to crazy explore. But there's a couple of things that are notable that are important, like this over here. After you complete the Heart of Deimos, you will be able to wake Mother, and if you wake Mother, she has a whole bunch of bounties available for you, and you can go ahead and start. Out of all these bounties, they're just kind of like in Plains of Eidolon and Fortuna. You can complete these bounties in order to get Zaku. It's the tier 2 bounty right, oh no, it's tier 1, excuse me. So this is the tier 1 that has the Zaku Neuroptics, the tier 3 has the systems, and then the tier 4s have the Zaku Chassis. And yes, this one right here is the hardest because of the sheer number of items that got thrown on its drop table. But the interesting thing about these drop tables is that it contains all of the mods that normally drop from the Acolytes, usually for that every February. Every February we have the Soccer Acolytes come around, and they try to hunt us down, all of us peasant Tenno, and they come in and they'll drop mods like Blood Rush, Laser Sight, Argon Scope, Hydraulic Crosshairs. Those mods all now are completely available from these bounties for you. Obviously, that's good and bad. Market value has dropped for those drastically. You cannot sell them. And then the other good thing is that we don't have to wait once a year in order to get them, and you don't have to tell people, well, you're just going to have to come back next year. And they're like, well, what if I'm not playing the game in a year? Now you can just come here and get them. Additional things, most notably, I think the Isolation Volt, is by far the most valuable of all the bounties. It's not to take away that Zaku isn't valuable. You can still get Zaku. You're definitely going to want to get 2 Zaku sets. With that being said, still, these Isolation Volts are the best. And the reason being is because these get you everything Necromech. This, if you run this over and over, not only do you get a massive pile of resources because you're literally raiding an Aurican Vault, which is, I think, is really, really cool because you're going down inside of an Aurican Vault and you get a crap ton of valuable loot. Whereas normally if you were to outside, it would take you forever to grind out. If you're looking for one particular thing, though, ideally running this over and over and over may not necessarily be the wisest decision, since even those particular rare items are all on drop tables inside the vault. It might be more worth your while to actually go out and just fish and mine for them, but this will get you a crap ton of loot relatively easily, and it just gives you everything across the board relatively simply just by doing this one bounty. Now, the cool thing about this bounty is there are 3 tiers to this bounty, starting at tier 3. With that being said, we complete this one, and then if we go back to Mother, somewhere in the Cambion Drift, you actually have to find the exact Mother that has it. So we have to go to these various locations, and Mother might be in these various locations, and she might have a tier 4 or a tier 5 bounty available. In order to unlock the tier 4, you have to complete the tier 3. In order to unlock the tier 5, you have to complete the tier 4, and so on. And if you do that before the night cycle switches over and resets, then you'll get massive amounts of loot, and including getting Necromech parts to actually be able to build your Necromech. So the Necromech will actually show you that you can actually get it. It looks like that, and you can walk around and you can ride it in. We'll get more into that at a later date. So that's what you'll be getting from your Isolation Volts. So various things to note. You can pick up resources just off the ground. That's kind of nice. If we pull out our Sunpoint Plasma Drill, you don't need to do a whole lot. We can actually find things to mine. And they made an update to the mining so that we get this square that populates. So if you see these squares that populate, those are particular spots where you can actually mine. And you just simply mine. And then bada bing, bada boom. There is a little glitch with them, though, that sometimes, if you're not looking at them in just the right light, or it happens to spawn underneath some pulsing membrane textures, then you won't be able to actually find it. So if you notice that these textures move, sometimes you will be able to get mining spots that are under textures like that, and they move drastically, and they'll just completely cover the thing. This isn't a particular spot I think that it would spawn in, but I've seen it spawn in places that are very similar in nature to this. So just be careful when you're mining. Just because you don't see anything there doesn't mean that there actually isn't something there. Sometimes it's just worthwhile just to point and go ahead and shoot. The other interesting thing that I like about this place is you can walk on the water. Boom. So I'm supposed to be walking on the water here, which we can do. I'll find a nice deep end over here, but I'm not actually falling through, and I'm not getting, oh, you missed it. Now this thing right here, those are fish. And these are interesting because they are out of the water. And you can catch them. Now, if you want to fish in the water, you can use bait. You can use this. And if you do that, then of course all the fish will highlight. They can come out if they so want to, but you'll also be able to puncture the mucus, and you can actually fish underground instead of just above. Oh, look at this guy. Die. Okay, perfect. He's dead. You do need this fishing spear in order to fish underneath the water. And there's another fishing spear that you can get that's a higher tier, and that you'll just have to go through the syndicates in order to get. The other notable thing about it is because we can actually find Mother out and about, just kind of like how we find Utico or the Solaris United, we can go to another location, and here we go. Here we have it. Here is Mother again with more bounties. So you can find her scattered throughout the plains, and she'll be indicated on your minimap as a giant yellow sun-looking thing if you see there up in the top left-hand corner of my minimap. There are lots of loot crates around. They'll come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, so definitely take your time to shoot and explore. And this is the Cambion Drift. So let's go ahead and we'll go to the Necrolus. And the way you get to the Necrolus is we will have to go through this little pathway up here. And it's going to waypoint me all the way down here, but I'm flying, so since I know where I'm going, I'll just go up this way. Here we go. Oh, one more thing about out here. So here we go. So this place is interesting. So this requires the use of void energy. If you pull out your Tenno and you deal void damage to that little crystal in the center, it will activate and it will come together. Now, the reason why that's important is if you kill enemies within the small AoE that just activated, basically the confinement of the circle, you can get additional resources from the thing, and it'll just start shooting it at you, all the resources. And the more of them you kill, if you hit within the quota, then it starts just dropping them nonetheless. And so we'll just kill a few enemies, we'll get them to drop, and that's essentially all that's required. Now, there's supposed to be something to do with the Zada symbols above as to what that exactly is. We're not entirely sure yet, or if it has anything at all. I've been overthinking it. I've noticed that a lot of that there's like twins of these towers, so you're gonna find like 2 Rists, 2 Zadas, 2 Fosses, 2 Jahus just laying about inside of the plains, or as I should say, the Cambion Drift. So yeah, that's that. So pretty interesting. Got some resources there, and then we'll go inside of. Oh, hello. Hi. You didn't die. There you go. Now you're dead. And then we'll just enter. And now this is the elevator for the Necrolus. And then this will basically give us a mission completion reward because we've made it through Cambion Drift and we've made it out successfully. So now